Troy Kearns Channel podcast where we talk about all things real estate business, entrepreneurship, and sometimes we go down the rabbit hole and we talk politics. And today we have my good friend Michele Fiore here with us. She is a Las Vegas councilwoman in Ward 6. And I would consider her probably one of the toughest chicks that I've met. She's a fighter, and I really, really like her a lot. And I wanted to have her come in because as a guy who has been a little bit of a victim of bureaucracy, I would say, I have taken politics a little bit more seriously than I did 3 years ago. And you just called me the other day and you told me something. What was that?
I said, Troy, I'm going to be your next governor for the state of Nevada.
So you're running for governor of the state of Nevada.
Yes, I am, and I'm very excited and fired up about it.
That's good. Okay, so why do you want that abuse? I mean,
you know it's a bloody sport. It's a bloody sport.
Right.
But here's the thing. When you're a servant leader and you fight for Nevadans, as I have for 10 years, and with the record to prove it, right, and all the stories behind it, when you fight for Nevada and you see a governor sitting in the office destroying your state, and you're the only elected along with the mayor of the city, Mayor Carolyn Goodman, a wonderful woman. Her and I defied Governor Sisolak. We kept our city open. We kept our chambers open. We never missed a city council meeting. And it was really tough because as the governor of the state, you have emergency powers and the authority to shut the whole state down, as he did.
Right.
And then, so this is why. So as I literally looked at as a city
So you think this is all politics?
Oh, it's total politics. And politics, Troy, is a bloody, bloody sport.
Bloody sport. Those who can control those levers.
That's right.
Can make it miserable for everybody. If you're a business owner, they can make it miserable for you. And if you're a citizen in their state and they're going to force all these mandates on people and
then have the cops enforce it. Go down, knock at your door, fine you, shut you down. Yeah. So Governor Sisolak has really done so much damage.
Right. So why do you think he's doing that?
Well, I think the power got to his head. So let's look at who Governor Sisolak is.
Okay.
Just for 1 minute, right? He's the governor of our state of Nevada. What's his background? What qualifies him to be the governor of the state of Nevada, right?
Yeah.
What is that? So he came off as a telemarketer, right? He was a telemarketer, Robin Seniors. So telemarketing, he's living a nonchalant life, nothing big.
When was this? So he's originally from Wisconsin, right?
Before city council.
Okay. So
before Clark County Commission.
I saw something about the regions, something like that.
So know where he got his money from. So from a telemarketer, the county used eminent domain to steal his property. He sued the county for millions of dollars and won because the county took his house under the eminent domain law, but then sold it to a private developer, right? So he won that. So now he has money to run for office.
Okay.
He gets into office. He runs for office. He's the governor now. So, humble beginnings, I could say that, but watching as he governed and understand when Sisolak first got elected, I was the Republican, the sane Republican that said, look, calm down. He just got elected. Let's see what he does.
Let's give the guy a chance.
Give the guy a chance, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, the pandemic happened, the agenda out of D.C. happened, and he went right along with it, destroying businesses, destroying the little guy. The unemployment in this state literally made some folks homeless. The unemployment system that we were using was antiquated. He kept firing the directors of the unemployment division, which wasn't the directors. It was the antiquated servers that we were using out of state. These are things that could have been fixed in a second. I personally called Switch and said, hey, we need you to take over the data for our unemployment. It's out, and I think it was in Ohio or something.
Right. You're thinking like a business person.
Yes.
You're like, let's get into the solution.
Yes. And,
who do I know? Who can I contact? How can we fix this quickly?
Yes. So the governor, again, instead of taking, the reins and being the CEO of the state, he allowed very agendized folks to rule and tell him what to say, and he'd read it. He'd sit there in front of the camera and he'd read the agenda. It just wasn't his agenda.
Kind of the way you said it. When I went back, I've met with Governor Sisolak before, and I respect him, but I certainly understand like, I'm not happy with the way he's handled this whole situation. I have no problem. I would tell him that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to talk anything about, I know he's got a lot of responsibilities, and I'm sure he's under a lot of pressure as that responsibility comes. But at some point in time, I mean, enough's enough, right?
Enough is enough. And for him to attack our mayor and myself for fighting for Nevada's, it just shows the pettiness of this man.
You guys, I mean, you guys are pro Nevada. Everybody's pro Nevada. Let's be pro Nevada together. Let's be pro Las Vegas together. Let's figure out a way that we can all work together. And I agree. Okay, well, let's get on to a couple questions that I have for you. So I would say, like, I was thinking of this song, you started from the bottom, now you're here, that song.
Yeah.
But really, like, my background with you, the first time I met you, so I used to live in Centennial when me and my wife first started dating. I had
your New York City wife, whom I adore.
My New York City lovely wife. When we first started dating, we were running around Tenaya and Elkhorn all the time, and I would see your name, Michele Fiore, running for, I don't even know what it was back then. And I was like, okay. And then when we got to, I was invited with Chuck Brennan, the owner of Dollar Loan Center, to the barbecue over at Frank Martin's house. And my wife points out, she's like, that lady over there, that's the lady that we run by all the time. And I was like, okay, well, let's go say hi.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I met you. And then since then, I've just seen your political career climb. So tell us about where you started. You're obviously running for governor, and why we're talking about that. For those of them who know you and are going to get to know you through this podcast, if they wanted to support you, like, on the ground, how would they do that? How would they contact you?
It's really easy. They can go to my website, which is Vote Fiore, and it's VOTE, Vote Fiore, my last name, F as in flower, IORE.com, votefiore.com, and go and just either sign up to be a volunteer, donate. We're raising money every single day to keep our commercials up, to keep our message going out, to keep our staff on the ground, and we have a lot of volunteers as well. So we're hitting it, and we're hitting it hard.
Right. And politics, for those of you guys who don't know, politics is expensive. And a lot of times you got people who have got big pockets, who have agendas. And I think that your agenda is, we're going to get into that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let her give the opportunity to earn your money, earn your vote, earn whatever, but I think that she's going to convince you in this podcast about what type of person she is and what she's going to do for the state of Nevada. But out of anybody that should run for the governor who's tough enough to stand up to the politics and the bullying and the bureaucracy, I know you are that person who's capable. So we'll get into what your agenda is, what your message is, what your past history is. I'm going to bounce a few questions off you. So what are you going to do with the freaking schools?
Let's talk about the schools. So right now, there was a huge mistake that was just made with the school board trustees that fired Superintendent Dr. Jesus Hara. He's coming back, by the way. It was a 4-3 vote. This particular body did not begin with the end in mind. He's got $1 million contract. He just gave raises to the teacher. He's doing all that he can. He's a great superintendent. And you had an agenda, a mental agenda from the trustees that said, "Oh, we're gonna show him what we can do. We can fire him." Well, they didn't think that through, so they're bringing it back. And these folks that made this horrific mistake, they're going to have to answer to the constituents about getting reelected. So how do we fix our school system? We begin with competition. Just like a business.
Right.
If elected officials, politicians, would look at their role as a business role and look to see how do we improve productivity, right? How do we improve grades? How do we make the teachers happy, the students happy? Because let me tell you, our teachers here in the state of Nevada, they spend their time and their dime in their classroom.
Right.
So how do we do that? We break up the school district. Here in Clark County, we have one of the largest school districts.
That is a great idea.
Two things how we fix the school system. We break up the school district. So now there's competition. In all of Clark County, so we have Boulder City, we have Henderson, we have North Las Vegas, we have
Mesquite,
everything. They have their own school district. And then here's the real key. The real key is the tax dollar stays with the child. When I say the tax dollar stays with the child, every child in school, every home, every taxation that goes into our school district comes from our taxes on our houses, right?
Right.
When we have a child that either, and depending upon the child and their needs, you can go from $6,900 to $11,200 that stays with that child, right? So I have 7 grandkids. 2 of them are autistic. They go to a different school, and the tax dollar follows them. Well, what if we gave parents a choice to say, listen, your child, he gets $11,000 a year. What do you want to do with that $11,000? Do you want to keep him in this school? Can you drive him to a different school in a different neighborhood? Do you want to put him in private school? Do you want to put him in charter school? Do you want to put him in, what school do you want to put your child in? So let's say you wanted to go to a private school. That private school was $12,000, $14,000, $15,000. And you've got an $11,000 credit to go to that school. You register for that school. If there's a waiting list, it might take you a year. But the tax dollar has to follow the child to give the parents the choice of where they have to go. And we have to divide the actual district.
That is a fantastic answer.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you pull it off. You know what I mean?
We get the legislature. So let me tell you, school choice.
How does the politics works on? That's a great question to say. How do the politics work? How do you pull that off?
Okay, so we have the Gang of 63 in our state. We have 21 state senators and 43 assembly members. Okay, so we've got to get the majority vote. And we've got to basically have to lobby our assembly and state senators to say, listen, what we've done for 157 years here hasn't worked.
Number
Let's
50?
give
Are we
this,
number 50?
Yeah. No, we're about 47. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Let's try something different. Let's work together for our children and try something different. And you really have to let the agendas go. Let the political agendas go, because it's like a team, right? We have the Las Vegas Raiders, we have the Denver Broncos, and it's a team, Republicans, Democrats. We really have to come together for Nevadans and for our kids.
That's a great answer. Can I give you a good idea?
You can.
Okay. So there was this guy running for governor. His name's Meet Kevin. He's a big YouTuber. We're following a lot of guys who are doing...
Where is he running?
He lost. He was running for the Gavin Newsom...
in California.
In California.
So he ran for governor in California and he lost.
Yeah. I guess they were trying to overthrow Gavin Newsom, so people were running.
The recall.
So... He had a lot of really bright ideas. It's not my idea, it's his idea. He came up with these things called future schools. And, we're going to have so many people that are going to be left behind, including our children, because we're going in that, there was the Industrial Revolution. We're in the technology revolution, right? And not everybody's going to fit in that mold.
That's right.
And what I'm noticing right now is there's a lot of people who just don't have skill sets. So they're really useless to the workforce when they come out of it, because the school has taught them to think a certain way to become an employee, not to become a business owner. But, as I get into a lot more construction and stuff, I notice how, these trade guys are just upping their prices. They're making $55 an hour as an electrician. They're making, if they're on a union job, they might be making $75 an hour. So I look at that and I'm like, I'm going to teach my kids a trade. They're going to learn a trade, not just the technology that goes behind it. They're obviously going to learn that because we're in the technology era. But he came up with this idea called future schools, which is where after you get to a certain age, I really stopped learning after middle school. After you get to a certain age, let's go and teach you life skills.
Yeah.
Can you fold your laundry? You know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah. That's an amazing concept, right? No. And we get it. So we have tech schools out here.
Okay.
We need more of them, but we do have tech schools because, not everyone wants to be a data operator. Not everyone wants to be on the computer. We still have folks that like being out there. We need folks to lay asphalt. We need folks to build our houses. We need folks to do our plumbing. We need folks to, check our meters on Nevada energy things. So, these are all different trades and that we can train. So I understand that.
So when I first moved to Nevada, Oscar Goodman was the mayor, and that's been almost 16 years now. And he was notorious for being just authoritarian with the homeless. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't allow them in the state. And then his wife took over the mayorship, and as he moved forward, I've noticed our homeless situation has gotten out of control. I had one of them almost burn down my building. I've dealt with numerous situations where they've stripped air conditioning units. They're now sleeping at stoplights up at my house, in the parks by my house. How do we solve this problem? So
it is a problem. And what we've done here at the city is we literally have a corridor of hope. So we have a place for them to go. So when they're on private property, and we can basically send our MORE team, our marshals, and say, listen, you cannot be here, but you can go here. We can help you get there. And so we have so many resources in the city for this particular issue. It was a big fight, I have to tell you. It was a big fight when the mayor put this forth. This was her baby, and she's done such a great job at it. I mean, it was a big fight. We had conflicting feelings on the council, very liberal feelings that, people should just lay and go to the bathroom anywhere they want. And then, that
helps everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So thank goodness the mayor and the council, we prevailed to help the homeless and get them in a different direction. So now people have to understand, if you're having a homeless problem, you can call Metro, they can come out, and it's private property. They can't be there.
Right. How do we put them to work?
Well, that's another thing. We have the HOPE program. So in the Corridor of Hope, we find out what their skill sets are. And if they don't have any, we're willing to teach them. Or if they're disabled, we get them their IDs. We work with housing. We have so much in the city of Las Vegas to offer folks that need help.
Right. I'm 100% with you on that. We got to do something for sure. It's getting worse. I feel like we're turning a little bit into Los Angeles out here. Mm-hmm. When I used to watch Fox News, MSNBC, any of the political channels, I didn't understand how the whole situation works. The executive branch, the judicial branch. So you're a businesswoman. Mm-hmm. Who controls the levers of power in the state of Nevada? How does it work at the city level? How does it work at the county level? And how does it work at the state level? And why are you running for governor?
Thank you, Troy. Okay, so the municipalities, we have several. First of all, we have 17 counties. So number one, the governor of the state is the CEO of the state. Understand that.
Okay.
And all of the municipalities do not have home rule, which means if the governor says you are going to close down, all the municipalities are supposed to obey and close down, okay? As the governor has mandated these vaccines, the city has not. Like, we're not forcing our employees.
So he's put the mandate in place.
Yes, and we are not.
So we're supposed to require everybody to have a vaccine like they have in New Orleans, like they have it. I didn't even know that.
Now, understand what's happening as the governor, right? When you do that, we have our universities, our hospitals, our schools, especially if you're an adult student like going to UNLV, you have to be vaccinated or you can't sign up for your classes.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. That's happening right now.
Wow.
And secondly, if you're not vaccinated, you lose your job. So we've had nurses in some of our hospitals that literally have taken care of COVID patients without being vaccinated.
For the last 2 years.
Yep. And now all of a sudden they have to get vaccinated or they lose their job. And then here's the other problem. Now when they go for their unemployment, because now the companies can fight them to get unemployment because they didn't obey, but it wasn't in their contract. That's another thing. Like our city, county, all of our firefighters and our police officers, when they signed up, it wasn't in their contract that they must be vaccinated.
Correct.
So they have that leg to stand on unless they're going to change their contract. Right now, unfortunately, we have another opponent in this race that's mandating his new officers to get vaccinated. That's going to hurt them, and it's not okay, right?
So, why do you think people run on that platform that we're going? Because even if it's your opinion that people should be vaccinated, I can understand that opinion. It's a fear opinion, I think.
Yes.
And I just don't understand why you think. I mean, what's next when they can when they can put a needle in your arm? What's next?
That's right. That's exactly correct. So when we look at the state as a whole, so the governor's at the top. And then you have the counties, and then you have county commissioners and city council members, right? And then you have our school and our school board and our trustees and our regents. So depending upon the area that you're in, there's always a governing body. In the city of Las Vegas, we have the city council. But push comes to shove, the governor could really put the hammer down and say, but we've fought back. Thank goodness we have fought back. And through this pandemic, with the governor still holding on to his emergency powers, that's one thing that we have to change. As your next governor, emergency powers, okay, 30 days. If I'm going to extend governor emergency powers, I'm going to call a special session in and get our gang of 63, our 21 state senators, and our 42 assembly members together and say, do you guys want to do this? And literally have the people's voice vote on it, right?
Right.
Because
So that's not happened. It's just
that's
one
not
man's
happened at all.
voice.
Yes, it's one man's voice. Not okay. He's got full control, and he's taken total advantage of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting to know that. I had no idea. So he just keeps extending an emergency mandate.
He just hasn't let off of it.
Is the mask mandate going away? I heard that like it was.
So I doubt it. And here's why. This is what I tell folks. Even with the vaccines, like we get to choose, right? So I choose to be a student at UNLV. They want the vaccine. I have to show them the vaccine or online classes, not even in person. Online classes.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Online classes.
Well,
okay?
you don't want to get your computer sick.
Right, exactly. So understand you choose these things, right? So with the masks as well. So let's say I want to go to a restaurant with some friends and I walk in and they're like, you got to wear a mask. If I really want to eat there, I just might say, okay. Or if I really... I don't like wearing masks, so I generally go where I don't have to wear masks.
Right.
So it's my choice to go. I mean, when people say you can't go to a game without showing your vaccination card, well, maybe we don't go to a game.
Right.
But you have to have the guts and the willpower not to go to the game or not to go to that restaurant.
Have you seen those vaccination cards?
No, why?
Well, I think
I've seen
a lot of people are going back to their high school art class because they're really just like a piece of paper.
Oh, you're saying because people are just forging them.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just in New Orleans, and that they have that rule there. But the funny thing is, I was never asked for mine. But yeah, they have that. We took the same thing because there were some places who were like, we don't care, we're not obeying that rule, and But in the French Quarter, they were very, very tight on it. But what is the method behind someone who says you need to get vaccinated? What do you think is going through Governor Sisolak's head on that?
I really don't think anything's going through his head. I think he's taking orders. I just don't think that he has thought this through. He hasn't thought a lot of things through. The people that supported him originally for his governor race, there's many people that are not supporting him now that are looking at alternative candidates. And he did it to himself. So folks that had helped him get into the governor's house, he changed his number and doesn't return calls, right?
Wow.
And that's what he did. So he's made so many mistakes that are just really horrific.
When is the race?
It is, well, I've got two. So I've got the primary coming up in June and then the general in November of 2022.
All right. So let's break that down because I don't even understand that.
Okay.
I think I understand. You have to beat out your Republican opponent.
Of Republican opponents.
Okay.
So there's 6 or 7 gentlemen in the race right now and myself. But understand, before I got into this race, Troy, you got to know where Nevadans are. So we polled for 3 months on these questions. Do you support President Trump? Number 1 question. Number 2 question. Do you support the Second Amendment? We're talking about Republican primary voters only, okay?
Okay.
Do you support critical race theory? Do you support vaccine mandates? What do you think about voter fraud? Do you think there was voter fraud? So as we polled these most important things and several other questions, these were the cream of the crop that came to the top. And when I looked at the gentleman running, I said, absolutely not. They're gonna be another, let's say Sandoval or another Sisolak. Like they're not.
You're not a politician.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So you're a businesswoman that is here to change things.
And cannot be controlled by money. That's key, right?
I always wonder how these guys, they come into office, you hear about Nancy Pelosi all the time. Mm-hmm. Like her she's like worth $500 million and she's been in office forever and she doesn't own any businesses. So how does that all work?
It's lobbying, it's polling, when you look at the money that's put into race, it takes money to win a race, right?
Right.
So when you look at an average regular person, right, that doesn't have $80 million to throw into a governor's race, let's say.
How much would it cost to win this race, in your opinion?
So in the primary, I think the 7 gentlemen, one of the gentlemen will probably spend about $8 million just in the primary. And I will spend about $3 million. And others will spend an array of different. I don't have to spend as much money as some of the folks in this race because my team doesn't get 25 and 50% commissions on ad buys and stuff like that. We run a very lean campaign. I'm the CEO of my campaign. I have a great consultant, a great team, and we work hard. We don't clock out at 5. And that's
so you're
the
saying
difference.
you could
do more
spend
with less
and do more.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to. People are always saying, well, you got to buy the most expensive appliance or you got to buy the most expensive whatever. No, you just got to be business-minded.
That's
and
right.
Look to cut costs and work your butt off.
That's right.
So you are a Republican, but you're okay with same-sex marriage. You were pro-marijuana when it got legalized here in Nevada. It sounds like you're about personal freedoms and liberties.
I am. So a lot of folks don't realize this, but in 2013, I was an assemblywoman. It was my first office, and I'll never forget. I'm in our Republican caucus meeting, and at the time, the leader there said, we're not voting for domestic partnerships, and we're definitely killing the medical marijuana bill. So I said to the leader, I have to poll my district because I have to make sure that that's what they want to do, not what you want to do or Governor Sandoval. And my leader said to me, you will be one and done. You will not vote for domestic partner, and you will not vote for medical marijuana, or you will not be reelected. So
Interesting.
I used some Brooklyn language in the meeting.
Does it have any, like some Italian stuff?
Some Italian stuff, some words, maybe
Like
began
Tony
with the
Soprano?
F word. Yeah. And so we did the poll, and there was 15 of us. We were tiny but mighty. We could stop bills, and especially if it was on party lines, because then the governor could veto it if it was yes or no on party lines, right? So domestic partnership, when we polled our district, 68, almost 69, it was like 68.9%, said absolutely. Like, you want to kiss a girl or a boy, whatever, it's your freedom. Right? 78% said they wanted medical marijuana. So I went back to caucus and I said, look, I'm voting for it on both of those bills. So I guess we'll just see if I'm one and done. And let me tell you, they put up like the teacher of the year against me in the next. I killed them. I killed them by 78%. Like it was a joke. So because I fight for the people, understand when you stand with the people and fight for the people on what their freedoms are, and then you take it to another level on fighting against the federal government on what the stances are, you do get a reputation as a fighter.
Yeah, it's so interesting. The one thing that is like not okay in politics is to speak your mind. You tell people what they want to hear, and then you don't do anything, is what I've seen most people's playbook is. But you actually don't have a problem speaking your mind, whether it gets you in trouble or not.
Right.
And you do what you say you're going to do.
That's right. And the funniest thing is the media, people will say, oh my God, she has so many controversies. No, I don't. I win the controversies. The Bundys, we won. The recall, we won. When you think about what people are calling controversies, we won.
Right. It's just a bunch of malarkey and
Yes.
smoke and mirrors. So I'm glad you brought up the Bundy situation. That was one of my next questions to me. I think that demonstrates your fight. I don't even know about the situation. I know it was on the news, covered heavily. It was a standoff, bunch of guys that were raising cattle, I think, out on cattle land. I don't know the background of anything else other than that. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. So it was 2014. I was getting calls from several people saying that the federal government, the Bureau of Land Management, is out in Bunkerville shooting up cattle. And Troy, when I first heard this, I thought, these people are crazy. That's not happening. I literally thought that. So after about the fourth day in and about 8 calls saying no one's here to help us. At the time, I was driving a little Beamer Z4 2-seater convertible. I took it out there. There were a couple of thousand folks out there. We went on some ATVs. I saw the cattle being like what they call a fun shoot. So a bunch of agents were taking all their different firearms and shooting up the cattle. So I called a vet out of Utah and I said, look, if I schlep this cow to you, I need you to autopsy it. And I need you to tell me the ballistics, what kind of bullets are in this cow. And there were 9 different bullets in that cow, from a 223, which is an AR-15, to a 9mm, to a 45, to a 308, which is an AR-10. You got rifles and handguns, shotgun
And you're
shells.
pro-gun.
Oh, pro-gun.
So you
pro-gun. So I know when they're telling me, what's inside this cattle, these prize bulls. These are prize bulls that they did fun shoots on, okay? I was sickened, met with the Bundys.
Just out there killing these people's cattle.
And literally having snipers with red dots on folks, right? I had one sniper, he actually got let go from one of the special force units. He put on social media a picture of his scope. So he was scoping out the Patriots, and he had his scope on, like, let's say my forehead or your forehead. Right. And he put on social media that he's ready to pull the trigger and blow their heads off, right? Okay? So he got demoted. He didn't get totally fired.
You can't unring that bell.
You can't unring that bell. Yeah.
Real quick, to go a little bit backwards, how did the fire start? Why were the agents up there?
So the fire started over land. So It was the Obama administration. In Bunkerville, Cliven Bundy has lived on that land for generations. I mean, Cliven Bundy, when he was 5, was putting the bricks to the little house that he lives on, right? Everyone thinks it's this big, elaborate, enormous ranch. It's not. And he has cattle, and the greatest thing is now he has a meat processing, so we'll actually have Bundy beef, right? But understand how long it took him and all the fights that he had to go through. So the land that they're on, there's so many deals in Congress and up at the D.C. level on land. When I say on land, you're looking at mining them, putting solar on them. There's different things here in the state of Nevada why the BLM owns so much of our land.
90%.
That's right, 90%, right? And they want more. So, and they've been after the Bundys area for many, many decades. And Cliven's like, nope, didn't sign a contract with you. You're not getting my land. We're not doing this. When they used the excuse that Cliven wasn't paying his grazing fees, I had a donor, a very rich donor, that said, what are the grazing fees? I'll pay it. Sent me a blank check to pay the grazing fees. We literally sent certified letters to the BLM, to everyone. What are the grazing fees? We'll pay it. We got to Stonewalled on elected official letterhead, okay? Right. So that's when I knew they weren't answering. It was a crock. There was an agenda behind the scenes. And understand, I have people in this race, in the governor race, right? In the governor's race, right, that turn around and thank me. Thank you so much, Michele, for standing up. Shauna Cox was my cousin, and I'm so grateful that you flew to Oregon and flew here and flew there to stand up for these people. Elected official running against me, governor. I said to him, you know what? Where were your balls? Why weren't you out there? You know why he wasn't out there? Because he was worried about his next election. So when you run for the governorship of the state of Nevada, don't be worrying about your next election. You worry about your people. You worry about fighting for them and with them and standing against tyranny. And that's what I did.
That's a great job. That's a great story that shows, it was a situation out there. We'll try to put some of the footage up on when we do it, but there was a situation. There was a major standoff.
Major.
You came into like a war zone.
Yeah.
Basically, for those of you who don't know about this situation, you can Google it. His name's Cliven Bundy.
Mm-hmm. And the media will portray him out to be something he's not. He's just a good old cowboy.
I actually know about those ranching programs because I was actually in, some state somewhere, and I met some guys. They looked like the biggest hicks. I'm like, where are you guys from? And they go, Nevada. Mm-hmm. And I go, where exactly? And they told me some place up in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, well, what do you guys do? And they said, we cattle ranch.
Yeah.
And they're like, but I'm like, well, I thought all the land up there was owned. And they told me, well, they have a deal. They have these ranch rights and this and that and the other thing. And kind of to digress a little bit more, I was just in Texas last week in Houston, and my buddy's educating me on the state of Texas, and he said, you know why Texas is so powerful? And I said, why? He goes, because 93% of the land is owned by the people of Texas.
That's correct.
So the federal government basically took our land a long time ago, but they didn't take Texas.
To become a state. So in order for Nevada to become a state, I call it the longest text messaging, right? Because it was Morse code back there.
Yeah.
But when Abraham Lincoln was running to become the president of the United States, he needed Nevada. And what they did was, in the Nevada State Constitution, was they took the land back then. And really, we haven't had no one fight hard for it to reverse that, right? Because we have to go to Congress and we have to say, listen, and right now we've been dwindling it, like chipping away a little bit, where we've been getting BLM lands, like let's say 20,000 acres at a time, 5,000 acres at a time, to use it for like public use. So we're chipping and chipping and chipping away. but not fast enough.
There was another thing that I didn't really get into. I didn't know about it, but I looked at it a little bit, and I thought it was a good idea. And it was called the right to try.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. That was my bill. So let's go back. So I have a friend here, and, thank God, knock on wood, he's so healthy now today. Back in the day, like 2010, 2011, he was traveling to Italy and Germany for different methods. He had stage 4 liver cancer, and he was on the transplant list, right? And he was going back and forth to Germany and Italy to do these procedures that were not FDA approved in America. Right? So we started writing The Right to Try in 2012 with me and Dr. C. And then other people, like there was other individuals that in other states that were working on it and getting it passed, and they were writing their own Right to Try bill. And in 2013, when I put it forth, it got killed in committee. And then in 2015, when Republicans actually had, the governor's house, the state Senate house, and the lower house of the assembly, we got the Right to Try bill passed. I partnered up with a Democrat on sponsoring the bill. So it was a Republican-Democrat bill of Right to Try.
And the Right to Try is simply like a medical procedure.
No, the Right to Try is giving Americans the right to try different procedures that are not FDA approved yet to save their life.
Okay, so you're on the deathbed, and because the FDA hasn't approved this medicine, and you're like, I got nothing to lose here.
Let me try it. Yeah.
And that sounds like a good idea. If I'm on my deathbed, give me anything.
Yeah.
Let me try something. What's the worst that's going to happen?
That's right.
And
that's right.
And I don't mind being. It sounds like it's a human guinea pig, and if it works out, maybe.
Listen, it's your body, your choice.
Your body, your choice.
Your body, your choice.
Your land, your choice.
Your land, your choice. That's right.
Okay, so let's go into land, your choice. I always think about things like I run them, and I don't. And you were probably about ready to. And so I always feel like if I'm in front of someone who's really going to be making changes, I feel like it's my duty to throw a few things out there that I'd like to see done.
Yeah, right?
And I felt like I wanted to get your opinion on this. Prison and jail is a business these days.
It's a business.
And it's not a good business.
It's a bad business.
Yeah, and we've got all these guys in there. Some of them are in there for petty crimes. Some of them are in there for real crimes. But the reality is they're not getting rehabilitated. They're scheming, they're scamming, they're learning all sorts of other hustles when they get out. They're not doing anything. And I'll tell you what, and I've got 2 kids, and they're 8 years old. And I've put them up in their room plenty, and I know you've raised a bunch of children. My kids, you know what has changed their attitude about everything in life is hard work. I put them out there picking up garbage in the yard, picking up Twix in the yard, taking out the garbage, picking up the smallest, I don't care if it's leaves, or this, that, and the other. I believe if we gave people an opportunity to shave some time off their sentence, to give them something to look forward to, and to make a difference in Nevada, like picking up garbage is what I'm talking about. We have all this beautiful land. We have lots of places that we could put parks and stuff like that. And we have guys who are rotting away in jail who would love to get outside and probably shave some time off. Is that something that you would ever consider doing?
Actually, let's talk about that. Because as the governor of the state of Nevada, I'm going to be shutting down private prisons. I don't want private prisons in our state. It's nothing but a racket. And understand, they actually arrest people for the revenue. It's a revenue generator. So when I say shutting down private prisons, we have prisons that are here in the state. When you are a violent criminal, absolutely be behind bars, right?
Right. But you killed someone?
Yes.
Go to jail.
That's correct. So literally in 2013, I put a bill up that said change our criminal infractions to civil penalties for speeding tickets, right? 61 of my colleagues supported the bill, sponsored it with me. The judges killed it because they said if you don't arrest the person, Supreme Court Justice, if you don't arrest the person, we don't get to collect the money, and we need the money, okay? On record, okay?
It's always about the money.
Always about the money. 2015, I brought the bill back. Now I've got 62 sponsors with me out of the gang of 63, right?
Yeah.
Again, the justices killed it, right?
So if you got 63, could the justices kill it?
Yeah, they can.
So it doesn't matter how many votes if you don't have the justices on board. You're done.
No. The electeds have to vote for it. So even though we sponsored it, when we were in committee, the justices said, no, we can't do it. And it never got out of committee.
Okay.
So we never had the opportunity to vote on it.
Wow.
So they killed it in committee. So in 2017, I asked Yeager, Assemblyman, carry the bill. So he carried the bill in 2017. They carried the bill in 19, and we finally got it passed, right? So now the criminal infractions are changing to civil penalties to where you don't get arrested for a speeding ticket now. But understand, it's a revenue generator. So I am all about violent offenders being in jail, keeping our constituency safe. But we house ICE, people that, were driving their pickup. They're in jail for 9 years. They don't have their cell phone. They can't call their family, whether it's here or Mexico. This one particular story, when the Bundys were in jail, told me about this one man. And we started helping him. He was driving a pickup. He's like 60-year-old, doesn't speak good English. His bed of the pickup truck were, the recycle cans, like you go collect cans.
Correct, yeah.
Right? He got pulled over. He didn't have his ID, whatever, went to jail, and is still there. And let me tell you something. So these are the things with projects and people that we need. Interns that are in law school, criminology, we need them, getting involved and getting these folks out. I'm going to tell you something, and this is going to sound high. This is going to sound
like
high.
How high?
Like 50% high.
Okay, all right.
It's going to sound high. And when I tell you this, I am tough on crime. When I tell you I am tough on crime, when I was the Assemblywoman and they were trying to, figure out what we can do to stop human trafficking and child sex trafficking, and they wanted to put signs in restrooms. If you're being trafficked, call 1-800, okay? I said, listen, why don't you make a castration bill, okay? And why don't we take it seriously? You've got these pimps stealing children and selling them. Castrate them.
Right.
Let's get real. Let's get real, right? No, they wouldn't even consider something like that. But we got signs in all the bathrooms, just so you know. We got signs in all the bathrooms, okay?
Well, it's an interesting point. I do think that one is probably going to be hard to get past.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. You know what? If you do drugs in Asia, you die.
Yo, I flew to Singapore. No gum chewing. Gum chewing. And no drugs. Right? So when I'm on the plane, the folks that I'm with, they're like, hey, Michelle, do you have any medications in your purse? I'm like, I take no medication. I'm homeopathic. I take no medications. If I get sick, I'm taking vitamin C. I don't like medicine in my body. I'm like, no. Why? Is there a problem? And they're like, well, they'll literally put you in jail if you bring drugs into the country, even if it's your own. I'm like, okay, I have none. And I'm going to make sure I don't have any bubble gum, and we're going to throw it away right now. Yeah. So, I mean, this is very serious. So when we look at America and understand America, our free country, literally imprisons and incarcerates more than China and Russia combined.
Because it's a business. And that business has to end. I am so happy you asked me about that, because people will go, no, I'm very tough on crime, but I'm very, very logical. Like habitual sex offenders, honestly, that answer with the castration, we both might get heat for this one, but yeah. I mean, I don't think that's I think that's a drive.
It's not the death penalty.
Yeah, it's not the death penalty. And when you have somebody who's just
raping kids,
raping children, and ruining people's lives, and it's because of their sexual drive, I mean, that's how you eliminate that.
That's correct.
And they used to do that back in the old days, and they actually used to kill people. And I believe, and I understand that innocent people get killed, and we have to work on being better at that, and that's why they stopped, executing people and stuff like that. But people fear the penalty, right? Mm-hmm. And then, one interesting point to mention, you didn't say it, but you inferred it, and that they're criminalizing a lot of things.
They are.
And so this is something that happened to me. So I literally had a business here. I'm a real estate guy, so most of our people are independent contractors. I had hired a bookkeeper. That bookkeeper, we let go. And so when she went off payroll, that was what it was. That was really our only employee at the time. So I had a very bad idea at that point in time, which was anytime you get certified mail, just to reject it because it's bad news and I don't care about it. So my staff would reject all my certified mail just because I figured if they want to get a hold of me, I'm not signing for it.
Yeah.
Which was, in retrospect, not the best idea. Okay. Because it's the bad news or whatever the news is coming anyways. And that's just a little game I was playing. And so we rejected a letter from the state of Nevada, which was a workers' comp letter. So just by rejecting that letter, they sent in the dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And they found a girl who was working for me part-time, and they said, she's now your employee, which she wasn't. She's been an independent contractor for me for like 13 years, like just working on transactions. So I put her on the workers' comp. That was the only person they found. Everybody else was realtors. And then they've threatened me with criminal charges for this.
Of course.
And I'm like, I'm a businessman. I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I wasn't educated on this. I'm sorry. I'll pay back what I need to do. I'm not trying to. And then the guy says, you know what? We're actually requiring people who do nails on the side to be employees. They need to be on workers' comp because it's a hustle. Anytime they can get somebody on money, it's not about it. And how do you enforce something? You make it criminal.
That's right.
That's where the money's at. That's why they're not prosecuting all these people right now, because there's no money from a guy who robbed somebody because he didn't have any money to begin with. But a business guy who didn't pay a workers' comp bill because he rejected the mail is a criminal.
That's right. And that's not okay. Right? That's not okay. Listen, I've been down this path. I've been a CEO of several companies. I've been in Nevada for 30 years. I've hired over 2,000 folks that have worked with me over 30 years. And I'll tell you, you get some good ones and you get some bad ones. I've been through all of this with you. And even though I've won every case, it costs money to win. Right? It costs money for the accountants, for the attorneys, for the time. And generally, it's a disgruntled employee, okay, that has no life, and is, just upset that you let her go.
Yeah, it's crazy, the type of stuff that people do, and the thing that you have to run through with the state should be working with business owners, educating business owners. All right, so if you guys have not subscribed, I just want to tell you about the podcast right now. We are on the Troy Kearns channel on YouTube. We are on the Troy Kearns channel on TikTok. You'll see a lot of footage from this interview right here with Michele Fiore, the future governor of Nevada. But if you want to find me, just go to all the socials, Instagram, Troy Kearns channel on Instagram, on YouTube. And now we have our new podcast. So make sure that you subscribe to this podcast, the Troy Kearns channel podcast, where we talk about all things real estate, business, entrepreneurship, and we go down the rabbit hole with important people like Michele Fiore running for governor. And I want to encourage you guys. You've heard what she's had to say. She speaks her mind. There's not a lot of political talk. She has choice with her words because you just got to be. You know what I mean? Otherwise, somebody takes something out of context, uses it against you. How did they get a hold of you? Are you on the socials? How do they find you? How do they help you? How do they give you money?
Listen, if they email me, and they can find me on my website at votefiore.com. So it's VOTEFIORE.com, votefiore.com. And you put contact me. You put your name, your email. We will get back to you within 24 hours. You can volunteer with us. You can donate. We're raising money every single day. It takes a lot of money to get our message out. And that's where we are.
Sounds good. Okay, one last question to kind of wrap up our whole conversation, and thank you so much for coming in. You came in right away. I just flew back into town. I went on a great hike this morning at Calico Basin.
Nice.
I'm feeling good.
I love Calico Basin.
I do too.
I love Calico Basin.
OTEP doesn't love it. I took him on a hike. He almost passed out. If someone elects you and they want your vote because you're trying to vie for people's vote here, and maybe some of our listeners are not here locally, but they were from Nevada, and we have a lot of people who are actually in Nevada because I have a big Nevada presence. How are you going to leave the state? What is the state? We know what the state looks like right now. Mm-hmm. We got a bunch of people walking around in masks, being told they got to do certain things. What is the state going to look like after you leave?
Circa. That's what I'm going to tell you. Circa. So I want you to think back, right? Think back of our freedoms and when we started this state, and it was just a great out west state where people were having a good time, creating businesses, being free, and void of the nuisances of unnecessary bureaucracy, red tape, all of that, especially in business. So you look at the state of Nevada, number one, we have no income tax here. We're keeping it that way. We want you to come here. We want you to raise your family here. We want you to start your business here. And as the governor, your freedoms are number one.
Sounds like if you care about freedom, if you care about someone who's going to fight for you, then you probably should check out Michele Fiore. the future governor of Nevada. Whether you're Democrat, whether you're Republican, like I said, I vote across the way. I vote for who is a great person, and she is a great person. She's a fighter. She's hungry to win. She's hungry to fight. She's hungry to prove people wrong. And that's who you want. You want someone fighting for you. And I notice you have a little Trump coat on there.
Yeah.
You're a big Trump fan.
I am. And let me tell you something. Let's talk about that for a minute. People have to understand they have to be a grown-up and divide policy versus personality, right? Be a grown-up, divide policy versus personality. When we did polls, 70% of our Republican primary voters are Trumpsters. The other 30% are like, oh, he's got to eat humble pie. Well, great. Now look, we're paying $4 to $6 a gallon of gas right now. Really, how much humble pie would you like him to eat? So you got to be a grown-up and separate policy from personality.
Right. And I'll tell you, I looked at Trump because I voted for him and whatnot, and I said, man, if you just laid off on that last debate, man, because he went for the jugular, and he could have just let the other guy hang himself. I was a big fan, and I agree with you too. And there was a lot of things that he said that maybe shouldn't. So actions speak louder than words is what you're saying?
Yes.
And he was a man of action.
He was a man of action, and he still is a man of action.
Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for spending the morning with us. You've been awesome. And again, if you guys want to support Michele, if you want to support our show, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this video with a friend. Make sure you make her go viral. She's a tough lady. Get it all to all of her friends in New York. She's a good lady. She's a grandma. She don't look like a grandma, but she is a tough lady.
Thanks, Troy. It's always fun with you.
All right. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.